All right, back for another session. We are so glad you're here with us. If you've been tuning in with us since 10 a.m. Eastern, I hope that you have found all of the sessions impactful. You've gotten some nuggets that you can take away and implement into your shops. As I've mentioned in a few other sessions, just want to do a few housekeeping. Every session that we are doing is recorded, and so you can go back and get access to these on demand in the auditorium shortly after they conclude. So just to kind of kickstart this conversation, as you can tell, I have some incredible shop owners here with me today, and most of them have been longtime friends, not long time, but since I've been here, long time. It feels like long time. We've broken bread together. We've spent a lot of time in Vegas together. I've made a few cannolis with G, and Sarah is becoming a new friend of mine. And I'm super excited to have everybody here to talk about a topic that's really important for shop owners. And so we're going to talk through rising costs and shifting demands. And so how are economic pressures shaping auto repair shops today? And so we are in a time where shop owners are being asked to do more than ever, navigating rising costs, adapting to evolving technology, responding to new customer behaviors. I just talked about, the generation that's making up the majority of your customers, Gen Zs and millennials, leading strong teams, all while protecting profitability. So we recognize that it is no small task. And so that's why this conversation today is so valuable. So between our three panelists, we're bringing together over a century of combined experience in the auto repair world. And that experience comes from a beautiful blend of backgrounds, some who grew up in the Bays and know this industry inside and out, and others who have stepped into ownership with strong business and financial acumen. But they're really helping their shops thrive with a fresh perspective. And so really excited to have them together to unite them and their humility, their willingness to evolve, and their deep commitment to their people, to their customers, and their communities. And so through changing technology, shifting customer expectations, and growing economic pressures, they've not only stayed in the game, but they've built sustainable, forward-thinking businesses. And so together today, we'll hear how they're navigating these pressures and what they're focusing their energy on and what it takes to be a successful shop that's resilient in 2025 and beyond. And so to kick things off, I would love for each of you to introduce yourselves, your name, your shop, and your location, and how long you've been in business. And so I'm all about manners. And so ladies first, Sarah, I'm going to call you out. But if you could start, and folks, before you start, Sarah's running on Wi-Fi or just her phone today. The Wi-Fi is out. And so bear with her. If she drops, she'll join, but we want to make sure that she can get started. So Sarah, turning it over to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Amber. Really excited to be here for sure. I love the panelists that we've connected with, and just excited to be here. I think, Amber, when you referenced the century of experience, I am not contributing much to that number there. So I just purchased an auto repair shop in November. We're located in Aspen, Colorado, and I came to it through kind of a circuitous route. I am a mechanical engineer by schooling because I loved cars, but I didn't intend to necessarily work in the auto repair industry. My real motivation, my background is actually more in venture capital, finance, economics, things like that. So what I was seeing in my own hometown, which I was born and raised in Aspen, is that a lot of businesses that I grew up knowing and loving were starting to close down. And that's because of economic pressures from the outside. Post-COVID, a lot of people moved from LA and New York and Miami and started to export a lot of their lifestyle to Aspen, which is, I think, a small town that was so special because it was so unique to itself. So a friend of mine that I grew up with and a former colleague, we started to put our heads together on how we could keep Aspen what it is and the amazing community that it always has been. So when Amber was referencing really focusing on customers and community, that's what we've really doubled down on during these times, and keeping businesses locally owned. So that was how I bought Aspen Total Automotive. It was a locally owned business that was started 50 years ago. And we knew that we wanted to keep it locally owned because we are the only auto repair shop in Aspen within 40 miles of Aspen. So it's really important to us to have a super local touch, keep these mechanics that have been here for 10 to 18 years. We have a really long tenured team, and to keep it locally owned was kind of our motivation.
I love that. It sounds like you're starting off on the right foot, regardless if you have minimal years to add to the century. And so, Mark, I'll pass it to you, and then we'll conclude with G introductions, and then we'll get into the session.
Sure. Thank you, Amber. Really a pleasure to be here. So I am the second generation of an import car shop in Rochester, New York. We've been in business 40 years, celebrating this year. I've been in the business for 35 of those 40 years. So this is all I've ever known, pretty much. We are sales, service, and collision, which is a little bit unique because you either see very big repair shops or very big pre-owned sales centers. You often don't see the two and using both as a focus. So sales, service, and collision. We have 2 rooftops. We are doing about 7 million in sales a year. And we have been growing since the pandemic. We've been in a growth spurt. It's been really good. But, I really loved this topic to talk about today because there are so many, I guess we'll just call them challenges. They're not problems, they're just challenges that you have to overcome in this industry. Costs, of course, are just ever growing. But there's so many really interesting ways in which you can combat costs that, you can't say, well, parts are very expensive, so just find a cheaper place to buy parts. Or technician labor is very expensive, let's just find a cheaper way to get labor. There's really creative ways, and I've been digging into that over the last year or so. So I'm just really happy to be part of this. And we are a family business. My mother is the owner. I'm the president. My sister is with me. She's the vice president. My wife is our office manager. My son is our service manager, and my nephew is our body shop manager. So my family, along with 24 other team members, we make up our company.
Incredible. Really glad you're here, Mark. And it sounds like some successes that you guys are experiencing that we look forward to hearing as you've navigated these challenges. G, over to you.
Thank you, Amber, and thank you for having me here. G. Trulia, in the business for about 50 years. So I kind of date myself. On shop number 12, 5 I ran at one time. So that's why I have no hair left. But anyway, it wasn't the original business I decided to go into. I was going to school to be an FBI agent, believe it or not, but loved cars and never looked back. Our shop is located about 40 miles north of the World Trade Center. So we get a lot of people in our area that commute to New York City or White Plains, the second biggest city in commerce-wise from New York City. And we have a shop with a good family type of spirit in it. My sister-in-law works the front desk. She deals with most of the customers. Doreen, my wife, also works in the business. And our techs, my manager's been with me at this location for about 12 years or so. And the rest of the guys, we have 4 other techs, 1 female tech, actually. Mary comes, she travels, one of my students, actually. She travels over 4.5 hours to come down, and she stays the week in the area and then goes home on the weekends. So it's really a good thing. We're all about, making sure the customer actually sees what we're doing on their vehicle. AutoLeap has been a biggie. We take digital inspections, send the pictures via email or text them. Most of the time, text is the easiest thing. And it really does show the customer that we care. We'll also bring a customer in the shop if they're there and show them physically what's going on and explain it. So we have a great rapport with customers.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on the panel with such great panelists.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Welcome,
And
Sarah.
it's a pleasure to know you and I think you touched on something that we'll touch on in a little bit, but like retaining top talent, right? You have an employee who's driving four hours just to work for you. And so I want to kind of double into that in a little bit. But let's start the beginning of this panel with one of the questions. The biggest challenges shop owners are facing right now is rising costs. So what are the biggest cost increases that are affecting you right now? Parts, labor, or something else entirely? So I'll kick it off to whoever.
I'm happy to start. Well, I think it's really across the board. So fixed operations are up, and they're up quite a bit. That's subscriptions, every tool that you have in the shop, you're paying big yearly subscriptions on. Even a C-Tech today is getting paid north of $25 an hour. Parts, of course, are up, and you can go wherever you want. The prices are just where they are. So I think that the way to really navigate through these times, and they may never change. I mean, this may be here to stay. The higher prices are just where things are. And I think customers are also starting to get somewhat used to higher prices, not just in the automotive, but across the board. So it's all about customer care. It's all about quality. It's all about what product you're going to deliver to your customer. So I think that shops should be focusing less on value and more on customer experience. And I think that a huge way to save money in your shop is to follow standard operating procedures, like to the letter. Because when you have miscommunications in the shop, or you have sort of this Wild West mentality where everybody's running around and doing this, that's where everything falls apart. And when things fall apart, it costs money. So if a service advisor miscommunicates something to a technician, that's going to cost the shop money. If a technician doesn't talk to the parts department the right way, it's going to cost money. So it's really about having this culture of policy, like following policy, and not browbeating your employees into following policy, but showing them that by not deviating from the procedures, it's not just going to make money for the shop, but it's going to make their lives easier, because it's going to be easier to sell the job if they've prepped the customer up front. It's going to be easier to, if they take four corner pictures of a car when the car comes in, it's going to be easier to dispute if a customer thinks that scratch wasn't in their bumper before. All of those things are just things to make our lives easier. So the really good processes and procedures that are out there, and there's many places to find them, ChatGPT being one of them today, will really help in some of those unnecessary costs. So I think a good place to start is just trying to weed out the unnecessary expenses that can be avoided.
Yeah, and before we go to G, something that you mentioned, like you as the owner or whomever is managing your shop has to lead by example, right? And those values have to be set of how they're expected to do their day-to-day stuff to help with those inefficiencies to do better. So G, passing over to you.
Okay, well, rising cost is with everything, just like Mark said. Parts, there's nothing you can do about it, right? Labor is, if you want good people, labor is going to be high. In our area, obviously, we have to pay quite a bit, because being in the New York City area, everything's expensive, very difficult. We explain to the customer, and last year we probably had to go up 3 times during the year, just because of rising costs. They all realize after the pandemic, most of the parts that were, going to be installed on their vehicle cost more money, and labor costs more money. So we kind of explain to the customer, this is what's going on. We need to be profitable to stay in business, so we can warranty everything we do on your car. And the only way to do that is make sure you're managing your facility the right way. You have to charge the correct amount of money like everything, right? You can't buy a part and say, well, I'm only going to make 20% on it. You won't be in business all that long. So I think most of the customers, at least our customer base, is pretty understanding. And thank God most of our customer base is female. They're a little more understanding and they listen a lot better than males.
I'll take that compliment. I will take that. No, but I also think it's, talking about building trust, right? And being transparent is also a big thing. You are also running a business. And so most folks, hopefully customers, understand that you also have to continue to make money to stay in business. And so continuing to communicate and be transparent with your customers is super important as you experience rising costs. Like you mentioned, everybody's experiencing it when you go out to dinner. I mean, gosh, you can't go out anymore without spending over $150 on dinner, right? It's crazy. So, Sarah, what about you guys at your shop?
Yeah, absolutely. Our two biggest fixed expenses are going to be one, our rent. We're in Aspen, Colorado, and in the last 3 years, real estate prices have doubled here too. And our labor rate was not being adjusted accordingly. And when we bought the business, obviously our rent was kind of reassessed. And so that's something that we're paying Aspen prices for real estate. We might be a locally owned auto shop, but we have to participate in this economic game that everybody's playing here. So just communicating that I think is important to people and starting to get that through. And then all of our techs are actually on salary and they all commute well over an hour each day, some an hour, some an hour and a half. And so basically, our customers' option is either to bring their vehicles to us or to bring their vehicles to where our techs live, which is an hour to an hour and a half away too. So we've really doubled down on time savings for customers too, and then really leaning into customer service, being a little bit more white glove, and just really, really focusing on quality of service, because I think that that's going to be our main differentiator too, and just giving vehicles back as quickly as we can. And of course, communicating how difficult it is to operate in the, I mean, I don't have internet right now, so we are very much up in the mountains. Our parts infrastructure is just not the same as most cities and everything. And so just being overly communicative with customers has really been a win for us. And we've gained more loyal customers because of that. And I think, as you were just referencing, I think we're going to have to just continue to increase our labor costs. What's been super useful to me coming into the industry as kind of an outsider too, is that there are very standardized kind of metrics for what percent parts versus labor should be of your revenue, what percent your direct tech cost should be as a portion of revenue, what your rent should be. And so that's really allowing us in many different ways to attack what our labor rate should be, what's an appropriate labor rate to charge because of the unique circumstances under which we operate. And I can't say that we're fully at the actual value that I perceive we bring, but that's what we're working towards, is bringing up our quality to a higher labor rate, but then also educating our customers towards that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, it's this delicate balance of trying to maintain long-term profitability while absorbing short-term economic pressures, right?
If I may expand upon for a second, two things that I thought about when Sarah was talking and G talked about it also, raising your labor rate 3 times last year. We did the same thing. And I'm sure G can talk to this too, that for 20 or 30 years, raising your labor rate was really a scary thing. You didn't know if you did that, if you were going to knock yourself out of the ballpark. And so you were really guarded about doing it. And I see a lot of shops now are still in that mode where they just don't want to make that jump to raising the labor rate to a number that to them is going to seem like they're going to be like, there's no way we could do that. But I will tell you that if you're a shop owner and you're having that reservation, you have to overlook that reservation and just do it. What we have right now is we have dealerships that are charging $250, sometimes $300 an hour, but you still have the guy down the street with a 2-bay garage that might still be only charging $100, and it's hard to find, well, where do you find that balance? You're not the dealer, but you're not that guy down the street either. So where do you find that balance? And I think that for many, many years, independent shops had this sort of thought that they can't be more than the dealer. And now the new modern thought is that an independent shop should be more than the dealer, because the independent shop is likely going to give them better, or at least has the ability to give the customer a better experience than the franchise dealer does. There's a lot that could be a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, but that's the reality of things now. And then lastly, just to finish on the thought, is that once we joined the AutoLeap team, having reporting at your fingertips was a game changer for us. Being able to see KPIs on a daily basis, to see where the money is being spent, knowing what your actual labor cost is. I think a lot of shops, if you ask them, what is your cost per hour labor, they may not be able to answer that accurately. Um, it's not just what does your guy get paid an hour. There's a bunch of things that go into it. So having those KPIs, being able to track that stuff is huge.
Yeah. I mean, you can't make decisions without data, right? I mean, you can make decisions, but a lot of them are usually emotionally driven. And you've got to have those data-driven decisions. So I love that. I think, oh, go ahead, G.
I'd like to add one thing to that. Mark is absolutely right. Most independent shop always worry about what the guy down the street is charging or what the dealer is charging. You really have to look into your own financial situation in your facility and charge what you need to be in business. And we give the personal touch. We're that person's technician / mechanic. They can speak to us directly. In a big facility like a dealership, they're not going to have that one-on-one feeling. Mark has a family business and Sarah's right there. We're involved in the business and we back everything up with a warranty, and customers feel really secure with that. If they have a problem, we're right there. They don't have to go through, sorry, you got to speak to this person, that person. It gets resolved instantly.
Yeah, I love this. And I think it kind of bleeds, all of that bleeds super well into, what I'm hoping is some of the things that you guys are going to highlight. The experience between the dealership and the independent shop, but there's also this experience and shift in how our customers are expecting to do business with us, right? And so would love to hear from you guys. How have you noticed changes in how often customers are servicing their vehicles, or whether they prioritize preventative maintenance? And then kind of bleed into that of like, how are you taking care of them from a customer service standpoint to get them back in the door?
Yeah, I can dive into that a little bit. Because we are so seasonal up in Aspen, January, February, March are definitely our slowest months. So it gave us some time to tinker with marketing. And I'll give AutoLeap a huge shout out here. The enhanced digital visual inspections, that comprehensive one that AutoLeap launched, we just created that into a canned service. We did a $75 special and we could not keep up with the number of bookings that we got. And so what that allowed us to do, though, is really focus on vehicle maintenance. I mean, there's a lot of fluid flushes in there and things like that are really more maintenance focused. And so being able to intake a vehicle, tell people what's a true safety concern, but then also develop like a custom Aspen Total Automotive maintenance plan for us has been really, really interesting as far as relationships with the customer. And we kind of saw even that they would do the inspection and then they would sit on it for 6 or so weeks, but that it would start to convert very quickly. And we could even see that in the deferred service campaign, and just really start to see that we were gaining customer loyalty. They were like, that was a really great inspection. Thank you so much. I'd like to go ahead with this. So I think that was a really interesting kind of experiment that we launched, but also had the secondary consequence in a good way of really building trust with our customers.
I love that. And I think I love the shout out about the DVI. Our customers are definitely seeing a lot of benefits from it. But do you think that also has, have you guys seen a lag in the services, or maybe opening it up to Mark and G, the frequency at what customers are coming in to get more services? G, I see you nodding your head.
I think we have, like in February, seemed to be a slower month. Since the pandemic, we've been slammed, but February slowed up somewhat and people did cut back on the services. I think, because of presidential election, the market, people cut back. But overall, I mean, we just had a couple of jobs go out, $6,000+ $7,000 job. People are holding on to their vehicles. A economy that is not doing well usually does real well for the automotive, industry. So, I've been in this business, like I said, many years, and I've always noticed that if the economy is poor, people hold on to the vehicle and they are going to repair those cars. And cars are made better, let's face it. Years ago, if you had a car living in New York City, if you had a car with 40,000 miles, it was time to get rid of it. Now that's, what are you kidding? 200,000 miles. And these things are still going and people are investing the money in them. So it is something that I think people will continue to do, especially if you could explain repairs to people and explain preventative maintenance. Don't wait until it breaks. That costs you a hell of a lot more money, and show them things. We have a lot of pictures. As you know, Amber, I do tons of different classes. So I will pull stuff up. We have a screen that faces the customer. We will pull up real world examples and say, hey, if it looks like this and yours looks like that, you got a problem. And they will show them the real pictures of their vehicle. So most of them buy into the preventive maintenance. I just think February, people got a bit nervous, probably bills after Christmas, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I like the approach that we're taking in our shop, and that is to sort of streamline preventative maintenance care, because what has happened in the auto industry over the last 20 years is that all cars went to somewhat of a standardized maintenance program. So there were 15,000 mile services and then 30,000 mile services, the 15 being the smaller of the service, the 30 being a bit bigger. Sometimes that included spark plugs or some fluid changes. And, if you are a Honda dealer, you only have to worry about the service on a Honda, and that's pretty easy to keep that owner's manual handy and recommend it. But if you are an independent shop, you're working on many different brands, which have many different preventative maintenance manuals, so different time intervals and mileage intervals. So I think going back to if you're a shop and your customers trust you, then I think they'll trust you with coming up with a recommended preventative maintenance schedule. So in our instance, we're doing 15, 30, 45, 60, so on and on, and making sure people do their oil changes every 5,000 as opposed to the manufacturer's recommended 10. If you can ask anybody in this industry that knows anything, and they'll say you should do your oil change every 5,000 miles. So people are already bypassing what the manufacturers say in that regard. The manufacturer does not have your best interest in mind when it comes to servicing your car. They want you to think the car is very inexpensive to maintain so that you will buy it. It's our job to say they're being a little bit, a little bit lenient on how often you should do some of these things. So I think a lot of it is education to the customer. And as G said, when you are doing these DVIs and you're taking pictures, I mean, that sells itself. If you show someone a bad ball joint versus a good one, and sometimes having that comparison, good and bad. And also, something that's in the industry, they say when you're taking pictures of people's cars, of their parts that are bad, take a couple pictures of some of the parts that are good, so that you're giving them some good news too. Like, hey, you need 2 ball joints, but your rotors are not rusty. So, stuff like that.
That's the sandwich technique, right? When you
Yeah. Compliment sandwich.
yeah, yeah, you're doing that. I think it's all really good things that you guys have shared. And before we go forward, I mean, anything else that you guys want to share on this thought? Just overall servicing vehicles and prioritizing preventative maintenance. I mean, I agree with you. Like, before I open up the questions, right? We just had one of those decisions that we had to make on my husband's Ford F-150, right? I know it's fix or repair daily. I'm definitely in that with my Ford right now. And of course we have an EcoBoost, and we needed to get the turbocharges, but we didn't just need one, so we needed 2. And so now it's like $9,000 that I just have to swallow. And it's like, do we buy a new car? I don't know what the best thing to do is. And so sure enough, we went and did it, because buying a new car right now is just a really difficult thing, right? $60,000-$70,000. And so I agree with you that I think it's like the reactive, right? Are people doing reactive maintenance though? Is another question. Are you seeing that? And then, yeah, I guess the CRM tools, like you said, Sierra, and building trust with the DVI is really important to help be the experts. Just what our doctors do, it's what our dental offices do, and it's what our shops need to be doing as well.
You know,
Yeah, it's-
Amber, you mentioned that about your truck, and one thing I have a perspective on, because we sell cars here too, is we're often faced with a customer that has their car in, it needs a lot of work, and they're faced with the decision, do I do this work or get a new car? Well, they're going to likely have to trade that car in. It's going to be a lot harder to trade that Ford in with two bad turbochargers than than if they're replaced. So it should be our job as service advisors to walk that road with them and go, okay, before we dismiss doing the turbochargers, which may be the right call, do we look to see what's the best number we can put on doing these turbochargers, and then what will it make your car worth versus if you trade it in with the problem the way it currently is. So we're often we are doing our job. We are advising. We are not just trying to sell them something. We're trying to give them some options. And the option 50% of the time may be, do not fix this car. Every dollar you put in it is going to be wasted. Or, you know what, if you put, and I'm just going to use that as an example.
Please do.
You put 9,000 into this car, it actually gets the value up 10,000. So, I mean, there may be a case where the repair is warranted to get the car in a better position for trade-in, or at least what I see, because buying a car based on your existing car having a problem, it's a very reactionary thing. Now you're faced with buying a car, you have lost a lot of your bargaining power because you are in need of a car. If you repair your car, it gives you a little bit of time now to take a step back and go, okay, now it's repaired. Now we can take our time to buy the car we want. We can be a little more, we can puff our chest a little bit more on what we want for our car as a trade-in. It provides some extra options for people.
So Mark, what we usually do with that is, let's take that $9,000 figure. We divide it up into, let's say, 2 years, what that would be as a payment per month, and say, well, if you bought a new vehicle, look how much more you would be spending. So it is always better to do preventative maintenance, like maybe if they use synthetic oil, and maybe if the customer was told, change it at 5,000, not the recommended. The new car manufacturer wants you to buy another one, right? That's the whole thing. Everything is a throwaway type of component out there. But we explain that to the customer, do the maintenance. The vehicle will serve you very, very well in the long run. Don't wait until that transmission fluid is so dark that it looks like motor oil, and then try to change it. Your transmission's going to go, and now you're going to need a new one.
A great tool is exactly what you said as an advisor. And again, it's always reiterating that word. You're an advisor. And an advisor would say that $9,000 job amortized over 24 months is X dollars a month. How does that translate to the new car monthly payment that you would have if they're looking at financing? Those are the types of things that, if we as service advisors offer that to the customer, it shows the customer that we actually went and spent 20 minutes and did some math for them and figured out if this made sense. And maybe the math will just reiterate that they shouldn't fix it. It's possible.
Correct.
But
and we've had that.
But you're doing the math, but you're doing the hard work for them, and that will get them to come back.
Right.
Oh,
and
and
when the vehicle is bad, like loaded with rust, we've told many people, we've showed them pictures, brought them out to the vehicle. This vehicle you shouldn't invest in it. Now, some people still want to do it, and say, look, safety wise, this thing may only have another year. You sure you want to invest $7,000 into this car? And again, we can't make the decision for the customer. We could only advise them. but we try to advise them the right way. There's enough money to make being honest than trying to sell someone a bag of goods on a piece of junk, because that's what it boils
Absolutely.
down to.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, really, you guys, you have to be positioned as the trusted advisor. Mark, you said it, right? You are the advisor. They are coming to you for that question. So be that person. You are the expert in this industry. Anything, Sarah, that you want to add before we go to shifting gears on team?
No, yeah, I agree. Feel the same way. I think when our service advisors say, well, if it were my vehicle, then I would do this. And people are like, okay, yep, got it. Understood. It's that trust. After you've kind of walked them through it, that really helps.
Yeah, well, okay, so appreciate that, guys. I think it was a fantastic comment. I'm glad my recent expending adventure on my truck has given us a topic. But what strategies, shifting to teams, have worked for you guys in keeping your technicians engaged, motivated? I don't want to just leave this to technicians. Let's keep it like service advisors, technicians as well, because you know, finding top talent, especially for technicians, is an ongoing topic in this industry, but service advisors should be looped into this as well. But just how do you keep your employees engaged and motivated despite the economic pressures that everybody is facing right now?
Well, if I may start, I think that you know, and I always try to like look at things of how they were maybe pre-pandemic, because I feel like the pandemic was a threshold that things were different on the other side of that. But now I think that we really are looking at incentivizing our employees more so than we ever did before. We are a straight time shop, so we're not a flat rate shop, and I know probably all the shops that are listening now, it's probably a mixed bag. But one thing that I know wasn't really a thing pre-pandemic was a straight time shop with technicians getting commission, or and in some cases even service advisors didn't get commission. They were hourly or salary, and maybe they had some sort of small bonus element to their pay. But now sharing in the gross profit with your team, from service advisors to detailers to technicians to everybody, showing them that every cog in the wheel uh, translates to dollars in the door. So from how we talk to the customer when we answer the phone to how we detail their car, all of that is relatable back to the dollar. That they have some skin in the game, that if they do the right thing, they're getting compensated. And likewise, it can go the other way. And it sounds harsh, and we could get into it more, but if they do the wrong thing, they can also potentially lose money. And that has to do with following procedures and how we take care of the customer. So I think it's a lot of doing a lot of incentives for the team, but also really making it a team environment, having everybody be invested. And just quickly to finish my time on this subject, we had we go into every January a little bit nervous because January, you know, first quarter in the Northeast is not the best time right, G, you know, White Plains got to be, you're in the same boat. So, you know, I mean, I pray to God that we're going to have a decent January, and we started a company prayer a couple of years ago that really helped. And even people of different religious beliefs, they still all joined in the prayer because it's still positive thinking regardless. And I incentivized the team. I said, if we could get to this number in January, it would be unthinkable. But if we could get there, everybody's going to get $500. And well, not only did we get there, but half of the team forgot about the $500. So it wasn't about the $500. It was the buzz we created around it. It was this energy that we created around this task, this monumental task that had never been done, and we did it. And since that was an aha moment, because from that moment, our everything about our company changed. And that was 2 years ago. So it's an atmosphere. It's a culture.
Yeah, it's also giving people, like, human beings like to have something like an outcome, right? And so driving everybody to the same vision is exactly what you did. And the togetherness of like, hey, we do this together, everybody's behind. Um, we fail together, we win together, right? It's that same mentality. It's not just like as an owner winning by themselves. It's an entire team, you know, gets you
Right.
there. Yeah. So, Sarah?
Let Sarah go first.
Yeah, I think that we kind of had a similar approach. What's been interesting is, like I said in the beginning, analyzing our P&Ls, our direct labor costs are really high. I think, industry-wide, it should be around 15%. We're closer to tracking at the 22 to 25% because everybody's on salary here. So as far as starting to give people raises and all of those things, we inherited a very expensive workforce here. And so we were always thinking about new strategies on how we can incentivize guys and pay them more and work them towards some sort of higher pay. But once we sat down with the guys, we realized some of them aren't necessarily motivated by having more money. Some of them want more responsibility and more recognition for the hard work that they've put in and those types of things. So what we did is kind of take a step back from incentive programs and really focus on everybody's personal goals. We have some guys that want to retire in El Salvador and just need to stack as much money as they can. And great, let's let them work on Saturdays. So we have them working on Saturdays with nobody necessarily intaking vehicles, but we allow them to work at the shop and work on bigger projects and things like that. We have one who's been a master mechanic for 30 years. He used to teach engine building. Like, he's really talented and was definitely underutilized. And we've seen him thrive when we gave him more shop responsibilities. And he said, he's like, I know I'm paid really well. I just want to have, be acknowledged for who I am. So we start to really individualize each of the guys, each of their goals, and start to work towards that, as opposed to, just being on the hamster wheel of constantly trying to, pay them more. And of course, we're working towards that and want to create fun challenges and things like that. But in the short term, just focusing on the people for being people was actually really helpful for us and created a great team atmosphere that I know that, Mark, if we start to implement, like, hey, let's work towards this goal, then there is kind of just like a shared goodwill about that. So
I love that. That's one thought before G goes. It's, when companies have kind of looked at why people leave jobs, right? And the reason people leave jobs is not because of money, generally speaking, right? They leave jobs because of leaders and managers and people. And so I love, Sarah, that you are taking an individual look at, knowing your people and your teams, right? Everybody just wants to be seen and acknowledged, right? At some level of being a human. And I think that's incredible. Yes, money is important, but money generally, when we're talking about employees and hiring, comes second. And so I love that. G, what about you?
So we have the managers on salary, everyone is on hourly. And most of the time they work more than 40 hours, so they'll get time and a half. But we also have a bonus program. And like Mark, we have numbers that we want to hit. If they hit those numbers, there's obviously a bonus attached to that. But what we also do is congratulate someone for doing a job that may have been a hard job. During the meeting, we'll say, Fernando has really stepped up to the plate and took this job on and did something he never did before. And it turned out well. And then we say, go on the Snap-on tool truck and pick out a tool you would like. We do have tool bonuses for our guys as well. Dinners and barbecues, usually Fridays. Now it's getting warmer out, too cold in the weather we've happened to go out there and barbecue, but we will light the barbecue up and we will start cooking and share lunch together, shut down for lunch, which we usually don't do. But on Fridays, we make exceptions to the rules. And of course, near the holidays, everyone gets not only all the paid bonuses, they get the time off, and we do have vacation time for them, health insurance, sick days, and getting together with, their spouses or their significant other really makes a difference, because then it feels more like a family. The spouse or partner gets to know Doreen and myself. you know, a lot better and understands what their husband or wife is actually dealing with working in our facility. So it's a real good feeling, you know, where people come in happy, they work as a team together, and we just keep trying to do that. Like you said, you know, money is one thing, money pays bills, but to get the recognition sometimes is a biggie. Same with ASEs. If our guys take the ASE test, we give them $100 for passing each test, whether they recertify or get a new one, and then pay all the fees and the time. And of course, we provide training. And we've flown our guys down to Atlanta, where you are, out to Chicago, to different areas, so they can stay update, so they don't evaporate. Because if you don't update nowadays, it's brutal.
That. And I love that, you know, just kind of to wrap this up, because we are going to have to wrap up the session in just a few minutes, but really looking at it not only from a monetary standpoint, but also people first kind of culture, right? And so I love all of the examples that you guys have given on both ends of the spectrum of how you're really retaining top talent. And yeah, it sounds like, you know, everybody has had successes. I'm sure there have been times where, you know, you didn't get it right and employees did leave and they were good employees. But that happens everywhere. And I think learning from those things, which I'm sure you guys have, is important, but it's always looking back and like, how can we do better and how can we put our people first, and then, you know, make sure we're supporting them on the aspects that they need. So just to kind of wrap this up, I would love for each of you to touch on this, but just looking ahead, what do shops need to stay competitive, not only today, but also just in the future?
I feel that it's really comes down to how you represent your shop. It's about quality repairs. It's about a friendly environment, being attentive to your customer, coming up with outside of the box thinking for marketing. Yes, all of the marketing things that we already know, Google AdWords and social media posts and emails and those kinds of things are important, but finding ways to engage that haven't been discovered yet. And there still are many things out there that we have at our disposal that aren't being used by most shops. And there's a lot of things, so whatever that is for each shop. But it's creating making sure you're really creating a brand, that you're not just a shop down the street, that there's something that makes you unique. For us, we spent a lot of money 2 years ago in renovating the inside of our shop. And we did that, and that served two purposes. One is so that our technicians knew if they ever went anywhere else, they'd never work in a shop nicer than the one that they're in right now. And the inside of our shop is so bright and so clean that you don't feel like you're in a shop at all. In fact, you feel more like you're in a medical center than you are in a shop. When you walk a customer through a shop like that, it's hard for them to think about going anywhere else. So that's the thing that we're using as an identifier for our brand. So I think it's about finding what your brand is going to be, work that really hard, but at the end of the day, it's about how you take care of the customer and being attentive and friendly, because it's going to be all about the quality of product you give the customer and much less about the cost.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. Kara?
Yeah, I feel actually the exact same way, just focusing on brand, quality, service, communication. We too have been trying different creative marketing things, Mark, like creating more merchandise and things like that to start to give to customers. And yeah, just kind of doubling down on our principles and knowing that we can ride through any economic wave or any pressures that we're experiencing by just taking care of each other inside of the shop and then our customers ultimately, and doing the job right the first time. And if they go to the guy that's, you know, independent down the valley, or just one guy in a garage, that will save them money in the long run by doing the job right. So
Very well said. I love the merch. You should get like a little stuffed animal to put in kids. I said this in the last one, like their car seats, right? Like tying in just like, who are you as a brand and what experiences are you creating for your customers is so important.
Yeah.
G, final thoughts
Yes.
there?
So from walking into our waiting room, which is absolutely spotless with beautiful plants that we have, coffee and water and whatever they want, free internet or TV. And for kids, all their toys are all cleaned down every day, disinfected, nice little area for them as well. And when you walk into our shop, we just repainted about a year ago. We repaint every 5 years. Our floors are all spotless and epoxied. We have the state-of-the-art in-ground lifts that I invested in about 4 or 5 years ago that can get the vehicle up and down in 21 seconds. And when people see all the equipment we have almost every factory scan tool out there. We have, 4 different air conditioned machines. People are impressed. Other shops bring their vehicles to us. Dealerships bring vehicles to us. So we have a very good reputation. Parts stores down the street recommend vehicle owners to us. So it's a good feeling that we're doing it right. We look professional. We don't have people with their butt hanging out. Everyone has the same uniform. We buy the guys Timberland great work boots. If they need them twice a year, we'll buy them twice a year. We want to make sure everyone is safe. We provide all safety information. And of course, since we do a lot of stuff with hybrids and EVs, we could explain to the customer, we could work on that Tesla. We have the scan tool to do it. We have the ability to do it. And it goes over well when people see all that. And again, thousands of pictures that we have on our computers, because all our computers, we have probably in the facility with tablets and computers and laptops, probably about 50 computers or so. So everyone is walking around either with a tablet or a computer or a workstation. And we use Dropbox to store everything before we put things in AutoLeap, because it also helps me on my training business. And it is a real good visual aid to show the customer, here's what this should look like. Look on this person's vehicle. They didn't do the preventative maintenance. And this person did. There's a big difference in how many miles you're going to get out of your vehicle. And we try to equate it to, it's almost like taking care of your body, right? If your cholesterol's high and you keep eating junky fries every day, well, you're not going to make it too far. So it's just a friendly feeling when people come in. Donna or Doreen are real good with customers. And how do we know? Our guys get a good percentage of tips. People bake us cakes. They bring pastries in. They'll buy us lunch. It's just a great feeling. And a lot of the New York City cops give us PBA cards. So that is another plus.
Well, you know who to hang out with when you go to New York. Mark and G have you covered there. Awesome, guys. Well, I hate to cut this short. We are about to go into our entertainment break, but I just wanted to say thank you to each of you for being here today. I know it's time out of your businesses. G, I know you're coaching for Dorman today. And so, ultimately, I think it's so important for you to surround yourself with other shop owners. Yes, the person down the street, the shop down the street is a competitor, but there's so many resources out there for you to be with like-minded folks and learn from them of the things that are working, things that didn't work, and just being okay to kind of say, maybe I'll try that. Because at the end of the day, you guys are walking through very similar circumstances and challenges. And so why not learn from each other of what's worked and what hasn't worked? And so I really appreciate each of you, your time. Thank you so much for being here today. And for those of you attending, I hope you got out something out of this impactful. And of course, if you want to get in touch with any of the speakers and owners that we have, just reach out and let us know. And I'm sure they'd be willing to connect with you to help you guys as well. And so thank you so much. Happy Friday, team and team. See, you're already my team. You guys are great. You're an extension of my team. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.